彼女はリン。
心はほっとするのに、胃袋にはずしってくる感じがたまらない。
リンの悪魔。
あなた、何というものを作ってしまったんですか?
Imagine being summoned to another world because you are believed to be a saint, only to discover that the people who called you there do not actually want you. Instead of being treated like a chosen hero, you are dismissed as useless, thrown aside as trash, and left to survive in a completely unfamiliar world. For Rin Takanashi, a caregiver in her 30s, this becomes the bizarre beginning of what should have been a hopeless journey. But Rin is not the kind of person who simply gives up when life takes an unexpected turn. She has a deep love for the great outdoors, she enjoys camping, and she knows how to appreciate the simple pleasures of life. Most importantly, this strange new world has given her something that may be far more valuable than royal recognition. A special skill called survival, along with another unique ability whose potential could completely change the course of her adventure. The story of the forsaken Saintess and her foodie road trip in another world takes the familiar idea of an Isekai summoned Saintess story and turns it into something much more relaxed, adventurous, humorous, and surprisingly comforting. Instead of focusing entirely on battles, political conspiracies, or saving the entire world, the heart of Rin's journey is exploration. She wants to experience this new world on her own terms, discover what it has to offer, enjoy the scenery, meet interesting people, and perhaps most importantly, eat as much delicious food as she possibly can. What begins as rejection gradually transforms into freedom, because being abandoned means Rin is no longer trapped by the expectations placed upon a supposedly sacred hero. Rin's situation is especially interesting because she is not portrayed as someone who has spent her entire life preparing to become a warrior. She is a caregiver, an ordinary adult who has responsibilities and experiences from another world, and she suddenly finds herself in an environment where everything from the landscape to the creatures and food can be unfamiliar. Yet her background gives her qualities that become incredibly useful. Patience, practical thinking, awareness of other people, and the ability to deal with unexpected situations are all valuable when you are traveling through a dangerous fantasy world. Her survival skill only strengthens those qualities, allowing her to approach the wilderness not simply as something frightening, but as something that can be understood and enjoyed. There's also something wonderfully ironic about Rin being labeled useless. The people who summoned her appear to judge her based on what they expect a saint to be capable of. They see her as a disappointment because she does not fit their ideal image. But the adventure quickly demonstrates how limited that judgment really is. A person does not have to possess the most spectacular combat ability or the most impressive title to have enormous value. Rin's skills become useful precisely because she understands how to live. She knows how to make a campsite feel comfortable, how to appreciate nature, how to prepare for a journey, and how to turn an ordinary moment into something memorable. In a world obsessed with extraordinary powers, her practical abilities become extraordinary in their own way. And then there is the food. Food is not simply decoration in this story. It becomes one of the major reasons Rin enjoys her new life. Imagine arriving in a fantasy world filled with unfamiliar ingredients, strange creatures, mysterious forests, and settlements you have never seen before, and deciding that instead of constantly worrying about your destiny, you are going to find out what everything tastes like. Rin's curiosity transforms eating into part of the adventure. Every journey can become an opportunity to discover something new, and every campsite can become a place where she prepares another satisfying meal. That approach gives the story a distinctive atmosphere. There is adventure, but it does not necessarily feel rushed. There are dangers, but they exist alongside moments of peace. There are new companions, but Rin's relationships develop naturally as people become part of her travels. The result is a road trip fantasy where the destination is often less important than the experience of getting there. A forest is not merely a location for a battle. It can be a place to explore. A village is not simply somewhere to receive the next quest. It can be a chance to meet people and discover local food. A quiet evening beside a campfire can become just as important as a major confrontation. Rin's personality is central to making this work. Being abandoned could easily have turned her story into something bitter and revenge-driven, but instead, her response creates an entirely different kind of fantasy. She discovers that rejection has unexpectedly given her independence. She does not have to spend every day proving herself to the people who dismissed her. She can choose where to go, who to trust, what to eat, and how she wants to live. That freedom becomes one of the most appealing parts of her journey. Of course, a peaceful road trip through another world cannot remain completely peaceful. Rin's path begins attracting unexpected companions, and these relationships slowly change the direction of her adventure. The description of the story makes it clear that Rin will not remain alone. Along the way, she picks up companions who become part of her journey, and this creates another layer of entertainment. The more people she encounters, the more unpredictable the trip becomes. A simple plan to explore, camp, and enjoy gourmet meals can easily turn into something much larger. This is where the title becomes especially meaningful. The story is not merely about a saintess who travels through another world. It is about a forsaken saintess discovering a new identity through travel. Rin begins as someone who has been rejected by the people who were supposed to value her, but the road gives her an opportunity to redefine herself. She does not need to be the saintess everyone expected. She can simply be Rin. Her journey also carries an appealing message about finding happiness after rejection. Being discarded can feel like the end of a person's story, but sometimes it can become the beginning of a completely different one. Rin's circumstances are unfair, yet they accidentally remove the restrictions that might have controlled her life. Instead of becoming trapped in someone else's expectations, she gets to create her own path. The wilderness that initially looks intimidating becomes a place of freedom, and the unknown world becomes something worth exploring. The survival skill is particularly fitting because it reflects the broader theme of the story. Survival is not only about staying alive when monsters appear. It is about adapting. It is about understanding your environment, making use of what you have, and finding a way forward when circumstances do not go according to plan. Rin has already survived the emotional shock of being summoned and rejected. Now she has to learn how to survive physically and socially in another world. Every new experience teaches her something, and every unexpected situation gives her another opportunity to grow. Her love of camping makes that growth even more enjoyable. There is something inherently relaxing about watching a character build a temporary home in the wilderness. Instead of constantly running toward the next crisis, Rin can stop, prepare food, organize her surroundings, and appreciate the world around her. These moments create a sense of comfort that contrasts with the fantasy dangers outside the campsite. The wilderness may contain unknown creatures and unexpected challenges, but around the fire, Rin can simply enjoy being alive. The gourmet element also allows the story to explore the fantasy world through its cuisine. Food can reveal the culture of a place just as much as its architecture or politics. Different ingredients, cooking methods, and meals can tell Rin something about the people who live there. Because she approaches the world with curiosity rather than immediately trying to conquer it, every meal becomes another piece of the larger adventure. Her appetite becomes almost a form of exploration. There is also plenty of room for comedy in the contrast between Rin's original circumstances and the life she eventually starts building. She was supposed to be a saintess, someone associated with enormous expectations and possibly a grand destiny. Instead, she becomes a traveler who is concerned with camping, survival, companions, and delicious food. The gap between what others expected from her and what she actually chooses to do creates much of the story's charm. But the most intriguing part is the final warning that her road is heading in an unexpected direction. That line suggests that the peaceful foodie road trip may not remain as simple as Rin imagines. Even if her original intention is to travel leisurely and enjoy herself, the people she meets and the situations she encounters may pull her into something much bigger. Her companions could introduce new responsibilities. Her unusual skills could attract attention. Her identity as a summoned saintess may eventually become important again. And the more Rin explores this world, the harder it may become to remain completely outside its larger conflicts. That creates an interesting balance between comfort and uncertainty. On one side, we have the pleasure of watching Rin discover new food, beautiful landscapes, camping locations, and companions. On the other side, there is always the possibility that something much more serious is developing underneath her seemingly relaxed journey. The story can therefore shift between peaceful travel and unexpected adventure without losing its central identity. What makes The Forsaken Saintess and her foodie road trip in another world stand out is ultimately the way it treats another world fantasy as a chance to live rather than simply fight. Rin has been given a second chance in circumstances she never asked for, and instead of allowing the rejection she experienced to define her future, she chooses to move forward. She explores, she eats, she camps, she meets people, she learns. And little by little, the world that once seemed completely alien begins to feel like somewhere she belongs. The concept also gives Rin a refreshing kind of agency. She is not simply waiting for someone to rescue her or explain what she should do next. She takes responsibility for her own journey. Her survival skill represents her ability to adapt, while her love of food and camping represents her ability to enjoy the journey instead of becoming consumed by its difficulties. Together, those qualities make her adventure feel personal. As Rin continues traveling, the people she meets may become just as important as the places she visits. Companionship can transform a lonely road into an unforgettable journey. The companions she picks up along the way bring their own personalities, abilities, and problems into Rin's world, and that means every stop has the potential to become something unexpected. A journey that begins as a solitary escape can gradually become a shared adventure. And perhaps that is the real heart of the story. Rin was initially told, in effect, that she was worthless, but the road gives her the chance to prove that value is not determined by the people who reject you. Sometimes the abilities that others overlook are exactly the abilities you need. Sometimes being pushed away from one path opens the door to another. And sometimes the best response to being treated like trash is not revenge, but building a life so enjoyable that you no longer care about the people who abandoned you. The Forsaken Saintess and her foodie road trip in another world therefore promises a fantasy adventure built around freedom, discovery, survival, companionship, and food. It combines the escapism of an Isekai world with the cozy appeal of camping and gourmet travel, while leaving enough mystery and unpredictability to keep Rin's future uncertain. Her journey may have started with rejection, but there is no reason it has to end there. What began as the story of a discarded saintess could become the story of a woman finally living life according to her own rules. Every road can lead somewhere new. Every campsite can become a memory. Every companion can change the direction of the journey. And every meal can become another reason to keep exploring. Rin Takanashi may have been summoned into another world as a saintess, but after being cast aside, she discovers something far more personal, the freedom to decide what kind of life she wants to live. And with survival on her side, a love for the outdoors in her heart, unique abilities at her disposal, and an appetite that seems ready for anything this strange world can serve, Rin's road trip is only beginning. The biggest question is no longer whether she can survive this world. It is where this unexpected road will take her next.